In this video, we're going to cover everything you need to know about building a dedicated mobile app using Bubble's new native app builder. If you're anything like me, you've been waiting a hot minute in anticipation for this new editor to launch. Well, now that it's available, it's time to get building. If you're relatively new to Bubble, or you haven't yet had the time to build your first native mobile app, this course is going to get you up to speed as quickly as possible. It'll cover absolutely everything, from setting up your own database, designing mobile-specific elements and page views, how you can then stitch everything together and make it functional using workflows, and of course, how to get your app published in both of the app stores. Look, there is just so much that we need to cover here, so I'm going to hand this one over to Matt, and he's going to walk through everything you need to know.
Hey guys, so today we are going to have a look at the new mobile app creator in Bubble. So this is a really cool feature that has just launched on the 10th and allows you to publish apps specifically for mobile that are then visible in the Google Play Store and also in the Apple Store. So this is really cool because now you can focus on specifically creating experiences for mobile instead of having to juggle the web app and then make sure that it can kind of be responsive for both devices. And also it's really cool that you can publish it straight to the Play Store, which allows you to reach a whole new audience. So in today's video, we are going to go through a few different elements, and these will be creating a mobile app. How do you do it? What's the basic differences? And then the links between databases in your web apps and your mobile apps. Then we'll look at the different designs, how the different elements work, what are some of the new features, as well as certain things that work on the web app but won't work on the mobile app, some different alternatives that you can use, and also some other best practices. We'll also have a look at the different workflows. So generally these stay the same, but there is a few new features that are now available for the mobile specific that aren't in the web app. So we'll go through that. Then we're going to go through and we're going to create a basic CRM in the mobile and then also kind of link it back to the web app designer. So we'll create the different data types for that and then go and implement that as a whole. And then the last thing that we're going to do is go through how you would go about publishing your app to the app stores and what different elements and features you need there in order to be able to publish and take those live. To start off, we're going to quickly go have a look at the Bubble documentation. There's a bit of stuff here that is worth going through, so I'd suggest following this link, the manual.bubble.io, and just having a read through it, highlights in the broad kind of space what you should expect when going into the new mobile editor and how to kind of best think about building going forward. The first thing that we kind of have to do is look at the different tools. We kind of all have an idea of what a mobile app is. These are ones specified specifically for mobile devices, your iPhones, your Androids and whatnot. But one of the big differences will be the native web elements, or native and web elements. Okay, so the first one is views. Views is a new kind of implementation, and this is compared to using groups in your web apps. So you can kind of read through here. They do share similarities, closely aligned with mobile app development principles. This is for views. And then groups, rather than relying on a single page, views represent distinct sections or screens within your app. So this is like putting all your stuff into one page on the web app and making sure that it can go through on a mobile device. But now, instead of stacking everything onto one page in the mobile app creator, you now have different views that essentially represent different pages, but in the way that they are actually structured, they all kind of flow one into each other, so you don't have like loaders or long times to wait for a page to load. There are also some new ways that you can navigate with like bottom tabs and also top tabs in terms of navigation and like breadcrumbs. And then next one is sheets compared to floating groups. These are quite cool. Kind of can stack your different data into those and then allow different functionality through there. And then lists and drop down. So One thing that you'll definitely see when we go into the editor is that there aren't any repeating groups anymore for the mobile editor, which kind of seems weird, but there are different alternatives that you can stack. And this also aligns with the different page types that we'll get into in just a bit. Cool. So let's get into the first section, which is how do you create a mobile app? So we're going to go into our general Bubble workspace. And then just as you would normally, go to create a new project. And then normally we would have just gone on start with the web app, but today we're going to click over here and start with a mobile app. And we don't have the AI feature just yet, but I'm sure we'll get that pretty soon. Cool, so we're going to click get started. We're going to start with the basic features for now. And then now you can see when we get into our app, there is almost like a mobile kind of screen display. So let's go and have a look here on the left at our different elements. So we have the usual things like your buttons, text, icons, images, shapes, and then map. Containers is where it starts to change a little bit from the current setup in the web apps. You can see here there are like groups and floating groups, but then short lists and horizontal lists and sheets. There are still some normal input forms, but you can see that the lists are a lot shorter than in the web app. So now from here, we can actually also create a web app. So this is also a unique way that if you are more comfortable developing on, let's say, the web app, or you want to still learn some of the mobile app stuff, you can create your web app. So let's create just a basic group and a home page, and then we can implement some basic data types. Let's go to this, we'll make it a column, make that there. So normally when you create a web app, you'll create things like a header. Now, this is where there are slight variations in terms of the mobile editor, as there are almost some native elements that you would rather use there instead of creating all these things in a web app. But let's, for example's sake, go through this over here. It's going to make these slightly different colors just to be able to see what we're doing. Min height, we're going to make that, let's just say 400. So now let's say you have a repeating group here within your, let's just do user for now, so it actually pulls something. We haven't created any data types. Okay, so let's go back here, and in user we're just going to quickly create a field called name. Type will be text, and surname. Type will also be text. Okay, and let's go add one entry into the database. So that we can call this test user test at test.com. Cool, let's create that user. Perfect. Okay, so let's go search for users, and then that will pull all of them. And we'll just drag a text element into here, put that into the repeating group, and then consoles users name. Perfect. So although this repeating group's not really going to pull too much stuff, we need to go and just double check our privacy rules, and we are going to actually just, for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to disable this privacy rule, although that's definitely not advised in your live applications. Okay, so there we go, public visible. Okay, so now we have this basic element in our web app. So we're going to go over here, and we're just going to say copy. And then in the top left, we're going to go over here to it says mobile app beta. And just on this page, we're going to click paste. Now, in your editor, it looks, okay, cool. So you can just copy it and paste across. But then we're going to go to preview. Now it will bring up the render for our mobile app. And it gives you this error which says bad element type repeating group. So now if you go look on the left here, you can see that repeating group actually isn't an option for your mobile developer. The reason for this being is that there are now some different view types for these different pages that allow you to create new experiences. So that would be things like scrollable, not scrollable, vertical list, and section list. We'll get to that in a short while. So the main thing here is that your database for both the mobile and the web development side are the same. So it means that you don't have to create separate apps for separate applications, and that creating like a fully working web app with a database means you don't have to go and redevelop the whole idea. So you can share the same database between two applications, one published on the web and then one that is on the App Store or the Android Store. Now that we've kind of gone through our basic intro here, go and try and create a basic workflow, or sorry, not a workflow, a basic data type, and then go mess around with the different elements, either creating them in the web app first and copying them across, or just trying to replicate one of your web app sides in your mobile side, and then you'll come across some errors. The next part we're going to go into is the design. So in this section, we're going to look at design, and we're going to go through a couple of elements and different concepts that are a little bit different from the web app compared to the mobile app builder. So we're going to have a look at things like pages and views, or tabs, scrollable, non-scrollable views, as well as the new kind of implemented feature, which is lists. And then we're also going to have a look at page views and sheets, some tips to keep your apps responsive so they look good on different mobile sizes. We're going to go through a list of the different native elements, as well as how to display lists. So there are a few differences in how these things work, but once you get the concepts, you should be able to translate your skills from the web app builder into the mobile builder. Cool, so let's go across. So over here we have our homepage. Generally, this is where you'd have your loading image and then your buttons to go to login or sign up. So this brings us to the first point within the mobile side. Now, normally in a web app, you would have a top bar that goes over here, and that top bar would have things like your dashboard and your profile or different tabs. And essentially, clicking that takes you onto a whole new page. Now, you can do this in the mobile editor, but if you've used apps, sometimes you see that there are specific pages that are related to the previous page. So this is where tabs and views come into play. So for example, when we get to our landing page or our index or our home page, when we click something like login, you still want to be able to quickly flip back to the home page, because maybe the person doesn't actually have an account and they need to press back and go to sign up. That might not be the best example because you probably have a sign up button, but let's have a look at something that you could implement, or you should implement, when building these mobile apps. So a user goes here, they go to their login page, and let's create this. So now we have these options, which says go to view or go to tab. So in this case, we're going to use something called go to view, and that view is going to be login. Okay, so let's go and preview this quickly. Cool, so our page loads, and then we say, I need to log into my account. So we click login, and there we go. It has our login page. Now, one thing that we probably also need to activate here is on the actual login page, which will be show the top app bar. And that will add a little bit of a breadcrumb to the top. So we do need to refresh. See, as you can see, they are refreshed, and it went back to my index page, meaning that it doesn't actually have the sign-in page fully loaded. It's just a view related to the login page or the index page. So let's try that again. We go to our login, and then here we go. It has the breadcrumb from the previous page, and then you would add in your information and then sign up. And then now when we are on this login page, we wouldn't use a view, because once the user logs in, they don't actually need to relate back to either the index page or the login page, because the user's now in the system. So over here, we're going to click on the left and then search for a button. Let's add a little bit of margin on the top. We'll put 20, and let's put some of this as well, 25, 25. And then this will be, let's say, sign in For now, we're not going to do a huge sign-in process. We'll cover that in later parts of this course. So for now, we're just going to say go to tab, and then our tab, we need to create a new mobile view. So this brings us now to our different types of views. As you can see, we have the scrollable view, the non-scrollable, the vertical list, and the section list. Compared to the mobile app builder and the web app, you just add a page and you create all your elements. Now this one, you have different functionality on each different type of page. And getting familiar with this will help you make sure that you use the right type of pages for creating the right type of functionality for your mobile app. So we're going to call this page view types, and we're just going to go and create a scrollable view. Okay, we're going to call this view types 2. All right, so before we can actually go and select this view type, we need to go to that target page. So we can actually delete this view types 2. And then we're going to go to view types onto there, and we're going to click on this page at the top. Now in this main element, which is the page itself, we're going to click here, include as a tab. Now as you can see, this will include it as a tab item at the bottom. So this is your main navigation for the app itself. So this will be a standalone element that can always be navigated to. So let's go back to our sign-in page or our login, and we're going to say edit, go to tab, and then we'll have this over here, view types. Now we need to just refresh our page, and we'll click login. We would normally enter some basic info. We're going to click sign in, and that's going to take us now to this page over here, which is view type. So let's go and look at the different view types. Now on this page, I currently have 2 elements, and this is a scrollable view type. If you put an element on the page, you'll notice that over here, we don't actually have anything showing. This object itself is valued at a minimum height of 100%. On the scrollable view, these currently don't show anything. So a scrollable view in itself means that when the user loads the page, you can show a certain amount of content, but there's actually content still lying below that. So your user would be able to scroll down the page to see a lot more content. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to take this group. Let's make that height minimum to 50. And we're going to copy, copy, copy so that it kind of extends past the end of the screen. And then we're going to make these different colors just so we can see. All right, so now let's go and preview that. Cool, so now you can see that on the actual phone itself, it has this scroll bar, meaning that there's content that can be displayed further down the screen. Now, one way to look at this a little bit better is to go to the top here, and you can click on the actual mobile button, which kind of adds the casing of your mobile device that would be displaying this content. Now the user would scroll with their thumb or whatever, and then they can go down the screen. So that is a scrollable view. Now let's go look at another one of these types. So we're going to go onto the main element of the page in our elements tree, which is view types, and then we're going to go to the view type. And you can change it from here. So now we're going to click not scrollable. Pretty self-explanatory that you have a certain height that it's set at, and that is the only height that will be displayed and no other content will be there. So let's go over here and refresh our view type. Now you can see that only our first 3 blocks show on the page, and we don't have that bar to scroll up and down. So on these type of pages, it's generally where you have a small amount of static content, and you just want to show either like a navigation that pushes them to something else, or you know exactly what you want to show on that page. Cool. Now we have these 2 new types, which are vertical lists and section lists. So let's go have a look at vertical lists. So a vertical list is similar to a repeating group from the web app, where you have just a list of items that scroll down your page. So we generally go to the left bar over here to the vertical list, and we need to set the content of this. So because we're building a basic CRM, we're going to look at leads. And over here, we'll go do a search for leads. All right, so now that sets the content for that group. Different from some of the web app stuff is all the elements there, you don't have to set content type, but it's generally advised that you set the content type for each of your elements within the mobile app. All right, so we're going to click on our first item of the vertical list. Then we're going to go here, insert dynamic data, current items, leads, first name. Cool. So let's go have a look at that. We'll refresh our view type page. And over here, I just have 3 different inputs, which are all test. Let's do this. Let's add comma, and then we're going to add current items, leads, last name, and refresh. Cool. So as you can see, test 1, test 2, and test 3, which are the basic elements that I have in our database. All right. So now that's not the only functionality you can add here. If you go to this little bar, you can see that there are plus items on the side. So over here, we can add different items. This one, let's say we want to look at this lead. We're just going to put an arrow, and let's make that blue. Click save. And then on the left-hand side, we actually have no need to contact this lead anymore. So we're going to add a trash can on red. So now these options allow you to add functionality to the swipe of that certain item. So now here you can add a workflow for if the user swipes right, then we're going to go into this lead's profile, or if they go left and swipe left, then it's going to delete that item. So we're not going to add in the functionality just yet, but let's go have a look at how that works. So you still have the general display, but let's say the user swipes right, then they're going to see this right bar. Because we don't have any functionality, nothing happens just yet. Or if we go to the left, we'll delete. So let's go and actually preview that. I'm going to say delete a thing. A thing to delete is current items lead. All right, so we'll refresh, and we're going to delete test 1. Okay, so test 1 is now gone off of our basic CRM. Okay, so that is the basics for the vertical list. Now we're going to go have a look at the other type, which is the section list. So we're going to flip this type to a section list. And now you can see you have a few more items. So we have our section header and then the list items. So essentially, this is similar functionality to grouping by in either repeating groups and their kind of sub elements that is in the web app. So over here, we need to go to our group. But before we do that, we go to the left to our section list. We need to do a search for the content. So we're going to add leads. We're going to say do a search for leads. Now, because we have a pretty basic setup, that won't actually work too well. So we're going to go to our leads. We're going to go to our data type. And then we're just going to add a thing called group example. And this we're just going to leave as a number. And let's go to test 3. We're going to put that in group example 2. This will also be grouped in example 2. And then let's create a new lead, which will be test. And this group example will be 1. I think let's actually add this as, we made that a number. So we'll just leave that for now. Okay. So now we have 3 items in our database, which is test 1, test 2, test 3. And now they all have a specific value, which is group example. This one has 1, and these 2 have 2. So now we have a specific value that we can group the items in our database by. So over here, we're going to go to our section list. Remember, we search for leads, search for the leads here. That will pull all of the items. Now we're going to go to our section header. In our section header, we now have the option to group them by something. So we could group them by the first name, which actually are all the same, and they all end up in one list. But generally in the CRM, you won't have all users with specific names. So generally you want to sort them by relevant data types or kind of actionable insights. So this one we're going to group by the group example type of grouping. We're not going to use a bucket. We're going to use an exact grouping. And then inside here, which is now inside your vertical list, inside the section list, is these specific items that will show each user's value, each cell's value. So over here, we're going to go current items leads, first name, then add a comma, and say current items leads, last name. And let's go and preview this. Cool. So, okay, our section header didn't pull through here. So let's go have a look. We didn't set our section header. So our section header is going to be current headers grouping. Cool. So over here, it's now grouped by their grouping. Remember, we added, where's that? Test user 1 was in group 1, and then test 2 and test 3 were in group 2. So let's have a look. There you go. Our grouping is by 1, test 1, and then this grouping is by group example 2, and we have user test 2 and user test 3. So those are the basic rundowns of these specific views. Now, also in this section list, or then its sub item in the vertical list, just as we did in the previous one, you can add different functionality, and this allows you to create your different lists of items, and then create different functionality, and also just swipe functionality, which makes things a lot easier. So we've gone through our different view types. So now we're going to go through how to design page views. Okay, so now let's hop into designing pages or the views and with sheets. Then some tips on how to make your apps responsive. And then also we're going to do a quick review of the different elements that you can have, and also lists. So I think a good start here will be, let's go and delete all this content. Let's rather actually just set it to a new type. So we're going to go back to a non-scrollable, and we can just delete all these different elements. And let's go do a quick review of the different elements that we will be able to add in. So these are your general ones, like your text, button, icon, image, shapes, maps. These are pretty much the same as your mobile and web app. They're pretty similar. As you can see, a few of the elements that we're used to are not there. So there's no things like repeating groups, as well as a few of the plugins that are available on the web app you won't be able to use in the mobile editor. So let's go have a quick look at that. So we can go to the top left, and we can go to our web app, and this is our basic page. Here we have a repeating group, and that's just searching for our users. So if we preview this on the web app view, it will just show we have a test user. Now let's go over here, and we're going to copy this across. We're going to go to mobile, and we're going to paste it here. So now in our editor, it seems like it's working and it's good, but let's go and view it. Now you get a statement that says bad element type repeating group. So there are a few elements that you can't actually transfer directly across from the web app builder into the mobile. Now, in comparison to the web app, we have some new items. Groups are pretty much the same, floating groups are the same, but then we have things like shortlist, horizontal list, and sheets. So let's go have a look at those. A shortlist is essentially just what it sounds like, is a short list. So this will be a small item where you can show a small bit of content, essentially like a compact repeating group, but for specific items. What differs here from, let's say, our view type of the vertical list is that you won't be able to actually add those little side navigation or action items. So this one would be normal. Let's add a text element here. Let's drag it to the top. And we're just going to say short list. And in the shortlist, we need to go to the top, set our content. Let's pull our leads, and we're going to go do a search for leads. Now, in this item, so we go into our shortlist, then to the shortlist item, and then the sub content in that shortlist item. So in there, we're going to go, this current item is leads. I'm just going to go last name because we have those set as like a number value. So let's go preview that. Then shortlist, we have 2, 3, and 1. And those are our different surnames of the users in our database. All right, so now let's go down again, and we're going to have a horizontal list. So horizontal lists are also kind of what they sound like. And instead of it scrolling down the screen, they're going to go from right to left. So this is our horizontal list. And we need to do the same process. We set the content for that specific thing. Then data source, we're going to go do a search for user. And then inside our horizontal list, we go to horizontal list item A. We're going to go here and we say current items user name. And then in the bottom, you could like, let's create a new data type here, which for our users, which will be bio. This will be a text value. Let's go to our app data and we're going to edit the user bio. This is a test user profile. Cool. We click save. Then let's go back to our editor. And then instead of having that text there, we're going to say current item user users bio. Now these items, if we had multiple users, we'll be able to show to the right. So let's actually go and add in 3 more users. Call this bio2, name is test2, email test2@test.com. I'm going to copy that for speed sakes. Cool, and now we have test3. We're just going to name these all actually just the same as the email. And then bio test3, save. Create one more entry, which will be our test 4. Surname we'll just leave blank for now. Test 4, and then so this bio test 4. Cool. Alrighty, so let's go back to our design. We check we have our different items here. It's going to search for our users. So let's go and preview. Now you can see we have our short list from earlier and our horizontal list. And because we have quite big elements there that are spaced wider than the screen width, we're going to get this bar over here that will allow you to scroll and then see the different items. So you can see our user's name and then their bio. So those are horizontal lists. Now we're going to add something called a sheet. Now a sheet isn't something that loads on your page and stays there. This is something like an alternative for a dropdown, and it has to actually be activated by a certain element on the page. So we're going to click back, and you can see it disappears. And now we're just going to add in a button just to make it look a little bit better. We're going to add some spacing at the top, which will be 20. And let's also do bottom 20, 20, 20. And then we're going to call this show sheet. Now we're going to add in a workflow for this. So when this button is tapped, we're going to show an element. And this element is going to be the, oh, we already have a little sheet here. So we're going to put sheet B. Let's find sheet A and actually just delete that item. Okay, so let's find the sheet B. And we're just going to add a text value over here. Say this is a sheet. And now inside the sheet, you would be able to add in certain items. Maybe you click on the user's profile and it shows their full profile. Or let's say you need some navigation items that aren't part of the tab or are for a specific element on the page. Then in here, you can either add in your buttons or add in any of those similar kind of navigational or action type of items. So let's go have a look. Just going to refresh this page. So we see our other items are loaded. Now we're going to click Show Sheet. There you go. So say this is a sheet, and then this would be just scrolled up and down or clicked on and then navigated out of. Cool. So those are pretty much the basic items. Then we have things like our checkboxes or our inputs and selectable lists. So selectable list, let's go through that one. So we're going to copy this. We're going to round the space because this is a non-scrollable page. Let's go look at our selectable list. Let me spell that correctly. Cool. So on the left, we're going to scroll down to selectable list. Now, you can already see that this is either going to need a specific select type, which is single select or multi-select. And then over here, we need to set the content. Essentially, it's a new or alternate version of a repeating group. So we're going to search for leads, do a search for leads. Perfect. So now that will populate the items into the list. And then we're just going to use a now for a single select. And here you can also say it's disabled, meaning that it shows, but you can't actually do anything with it. Or you can set it as required. So let's say you set in your preferences for a new app. You have to select at least 3. So we'd set it as like multi-select and required. And then you can say either range or an exact number. For now, we're just going to use a single select, and we're not going to use required for just yet. Now we need to go into our actual selectable list. We need to edit this item. Current items, leads. We're just going to use last name. Cool. So let's go and set that. Now we have our selectable list, which is similar to our other lists, but now this has the ability to click and then select an item. So now you can use either this for, let's say, creating a list that you want to send in terms of data, or you could use that to relate to other relational items on the page. And there's quite a few different concepts that you can use this one for specifically. So those are the elements that you need to know to be able to power your apps, and knowing exactly where to use them is pretty crucial. So we're going to go through some examples of that. All right, so we're going to review the different elements. We've just done that now. And then now we're going to look at how to design the pages or views or sheets, and then also to make them responsive. So let's think of something that we can build in this page and how we would go about it. So the first step is to go all the way back, and let's go to create a new mobile view. Now this view we will use to choose the right type. So let's say we want to see all of our leads in pretty much just a stacked version. We wouldn't use something like a scrollable view or a non-scrollable view. We'd probably use something like a vertical list, as this will just stack all the items together in no specific arrangement unless you filter them or sort them. And then a section list probably wouldn't be the best unless you want to group them by specific headers. So for this one, let's just go into our not scrollable. Like we mentioned in the previous one, we could use a selectable list for something like choosing preferences. So this we're not going to do just yet, but here in our type of choices, we're going to filter our leads by their grouping and then pull the data for those specific users. So there you go. And let's actually go add a new data type over here in our leads. And what we can add is something that makes them unique. So let's say product purchased, and this we're just going to create as a text type. Normally we'd probably relate this to another database field, which would be products. But for this case, we're just going to use a basic example. So let's actually make that a little bit different. So it wouldn't be used in a section list product purchased. We're going to delete that, and we're going to create this called products purchased. This will be text, and we're going to make this a list. So we're going to go to our app data, and in products purchased, we're going to say shoes, socks, and a shirt. Cool, we're going to save that. And then here we're just going to say shoes. And then this one we're going to say shirt and shoes. Cool, we're going to press save. So normally we would have these as a product list. So let's quickly actually just create a new type over here. Let's say products. Okay, I actually shouldn't. That's already going to mean we'll need to redo that as a link type. So instead we're just going to go over here and we're going to say product type. Inside here we're going to go clear our search over there, and then in our selectable list we're going to go leads, search for leads, and then let's over here I'm going to say maybe we can try the search for leads, each items, products purchased, unique elements. Okay, so we can't use that in the thing. We would need to change that to a type text. Okay, so over here we are going to go to current items text. So let's just preview that. This is not the best implementation, but in terms of what we're going to use it to display and how you should go about using the different elements, generally you would need to design your database types and then relate them. In that way, it'll lead to much better app performance. Okay, so here we have our different products, which is shirt, shoes, and socks. Now let's go look for another list, and let's use a short list. Let's just copy this over here. We're going to paste, and then users who purchased this item. All right, so now over here we are going to search for leads. So do a search for leads, and then that will pull all of the leads. So let's go set the current leads item, and we're going to just go last name. And then one thing we can add here is, let's say products purchased contains selected list A's selected choice. So let's quickly add one more condition over here. Say this short list of leads count is greater than 1. This element is visible. So we need to quickly go back here and say this element is visible on page load. No. And we're just going to copy that again. Go to users who purchased just to hide the text as well. I'm going to say list. Short list leads, list of leads count is greater than 1. This element is visible. And then we're going to hide that on page load. Okay, so we have our product types, and we're going to click shirt. And then these are our user surnames, remember, and then let's filter them by the different types. Okay, so we also have 2 that bought shoes. And then, did anyone buy socks? Let's go have a look. Okay, so we didn't press save on one. Let's add socks to this guy. Save. Okay. So we needed the item to be greater than 1 to show. So essentially you can see how this would be useful to either filter values below. We don't really have drop downs in the mobile app builder, so this is a specific way that you can build other functionality around that. Cool. And that pretty much goes through how to display lists. I think the main thing is that you will have to set the value of each list's type. It's not like in previous ones where you can pull data from different groups or different areas. You have to set the specific list. You have to set the data source for each specific list. So that goes through most of the design principles, and especially the new items. So in the next section, we're going to go back into these specific items, lists, and areas, and then add processes and workflows and kind of how they work, and also things to watch out for and kind of tips to get the most out of your workflows for the app builder. Hey guys, so in this section, we are going to look at the workflows in the mobile app builder, and then also just contrast some of the differences between the web app builder and the mobile app builder, and then go through a demo of how to use these specific things, as well as some settings that you might need to turn on to be able to use these workflows. Cool. So we're going to look at how to build some workflows. We'll go through some basics, and then we're going to go through some of the new events specifically for the mobile. All right. So we have our page here. This is our workflows page, and we're just going to quickly go and let's start by adding a button. So generally you'll have some content above this, and then we're just going to call this workflow test. Cool. And then normally we'd go over here and click add a workflow. And then we would go down to the bottom. So it means when this button is clicked, we then can trigger specific events. So in the web app builder, you have most of these different items: sign the user up for your login pages and whatnot, log the user out. So these are general basic items. Navigation is a little bit different now. So instead of going to a specific page, you go to either view or go to a tab. We did mention that earlier. So just to recap, going to a view is like going to data within a page that pretty much relates to the previous pages. And then going to a tab itself is like going to a brand new page in the web app builder. So this is an related page, but the content isn't linked specifically. And then over here, this is the new area, which is the native mobile. So as you can see, we have 4 different workflows that we can use, or 4 different functions. And this is open camera library, open camera, request location, and then get current location. So those are specific to the native mobile builder. Then in our data and things, we have the usual create a new, make changes to a list. And remember, we don't have things like repeating groups. So making changes to lists will be on vertical lists and the different items that stack. But we'll have a look at that now. Then email notifications, generally the same: send email, send meeting requests by email, and then push notifications. So these are also 2 new settings that you'll need to use. So before you can say, okay, I'm going to send a push notification, you need to get the user's permission to be able to send that notification. So you'll generally add like a consent pop-up, and then this kind of workflow, if you say request push notification permission, will pop up, they'll accept, and then you'll be able to run those workflows in the future of sending push notifications. So this would be like, for this case, for our CRM, would be a new lead has just arrived, or you have a new email, and then that will pop up as like a notification on your phone. Then payment is generally through either your external APIs, or if you have a plugin, as well as analytics. And element actions, generally the same. And then custom events, which are a little bit more advanced, but are good for kind of offsetting different workflows if they become too long, or just setting up different conditions when certain things should run, or kind of different loop functions. Okay, so let's go have a look at camera test. Okay, so let's say we need to take a photo of a product for our CRM. We then go over here and say, okay, let's upload a photo, say edit workflow, then go to native mobile, and we'd say open camera. And then you have these options over here. It says save to camera library. We can tick on. This means that when the photo is taken on the app, it will be saved to the user's phone, as well as uploaded onto the Bubble server. And then this is also a new area, which is make this file private. And this will be attach this file to either the current user, or you can search for a different type and then attach it to something like that. But it's generally advised that you'd attach it to the user or set up specific privacy rules. So only those images uploaded by the user would stay visible to that user only. Okay, so generally would do that. Then let's say we are going to take a photo. Let's say it's a selfie. Let's quickly go and set up the user profile picture. Yeah. So we'll go back to our workflow and we're not going to create a new thing. We are going to type make. We say make changes to current user or make changes to a thing depending on what you're editing. We're going to say change another field, and then profile picture will be result of step 1, which is open camera, where you take the photo. So now, before you get to this, if this is the first time you are using the camera settings, you're going to need to go to settings, and then over here in this left panel, we're going to look on the left and go to mobile settings. And we're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and by default, these are all off. Where it says device permissions, camera access, photo library access, microphone access, and location services. So now if we were to click on this and try and use those camera settings, then it will give us a pop-up saying we need to enable it. So we would go over to settings, and over here in the left panel under settings to mobile settings, and then here for camera access, we click enable, photo library access enable, microphone access enable, and location services enable. So another cool thing you can do here is edit permission language. So you can all go and change these to, let's say, your home language. And there is this drop down. Let's say you want to change to another language like Afrikaans, South African. Then we do that, but we're going to stick to English for now. So that's pretty much the basics for the camera. Then alternatively, instead of opening camera to take a photo, you could go and open the camera library, and this can be used for single or multiple photos. So let's say you need to upload a product image and you need the user to upload a single photo. So you go single photo, and then let's say create a new thing. We don't have a product type, but you would, let's do it, product, and let's call this product image. This will be image type. Then the image will be result of step 1, and then we'll type another one, product name, create a new field. This will be text type, and then we don't have an input. Let's say here we're just going to set this as a hard-coded value, which will just be default value, or like null, or anything that you want to add. But generally you could put either a category that it would auto assign, or you could put an input where the user could type and then they can add their own value, and you add that value there. Cool. So another thing that you can also add with this is, let's say we are going to go back here to take a photo, is let's say you are doing a travel app and you want to try and capture the location. So then you can sort all your different images by location. Then in the mobile area, you can go request location permissions, and that will then give a pop-up to request location. And then the other one is get current location. So the process would be you first needed to request for location, then get current location, and then over here in your camera, default value, and then this one, we'll call it location. And then you can either set this as a geographic address. You will need the Google API for that. So for now, just for this example, we're going to use text. And in location, then we can go get current locations, formatted address. Cool. So that's pretty much the rundown on the new camera features, which is a pretty big change in terms of using web apps to camera, web apps to mobile, as you can't really and don't really use cameras for web apps. So let's go and have a look what else we have. These are the sets. So let's go back to our button, edit, and let's just delete these ones. And then our other one was request push notification permissions. So essentially you would request this notification permissions, and you can either set a value on the user to say either they are allowed or not, or you can split this into two different workflows. So for now, I think we'll keep it in one. So push. And then inside your push notification, you can add your title. So this will be like new lead. And then your subtitle will be like reply in 15 minutes to convert. And then the body could be like a summary of that specific email. And then over here in devices, we can kind of choose what device, but generally we go to current users, devices, and that means that once they've logged in, the device data is stored specifically, and this is by default applied with privacy rules. So over here you have your type, your push notification token, the current user, which is linked to the person using the app, creator, modified date, created date, and the general slug. So by doing this, it will send the right type of notification to that specific phone. Let's say we have a whole long message. It knows to only show this specific part. I'm sure we've all seen those notifications on our phone. They cut off a little bit and then kind of gets you to open it. So those are the very different new features that are included in the mobile app builder. And now we're going to have a look at some specific features for workflows within either vertical lists or lists in itself. So we're going to go to our page, and at the moment it's not scrollable. So we are going to go to a vertical list. I already have specific items on this list, so we're going to add some functionality. All right, so by default, let's delete these. I've already set up this to pull the leads, first name and last name. Let's go preview that, say test 2, test 3, test 1, and now we can go back to our editor. And if we scroll onto this top line, see in line 2 it doesn't show, because when we add it to the top line, similar to a repeating group, that same functionality will repeat for all the items that are displayed. So we go to this top group, to this button, and we're now going to set the icon as well as the color and then the action. So generally this is when a user has their phone and they will swipe to the right, and then it activates that specific workflow. Okay, so this one we're going to say, let's go right, we'll change the color, and then don't forget to save. Okay, so then on the left, we're going to keep that as trash. And then over here you can see it says open swipe action editor. So click it again, and there you go, it pops up these. Okay, so let's delete this. Okay, so now we're going to quickly just preview this. And now I'm going to click and drag to the left. And when I do that, you see it shows this green icon that we've done, pretty much mimicking the slide of, let's say, your thumb across the screen. And then if I click and drag to the right, it shows the delete button. So essentially, when a user does this, it will trigger a workflow, like when you press a button or when you click an icon or something. So over here on the right, we can go say add a workflow. And this is swipe action A is tapped. And for this, we're just going to go to different tabs for now. And this one will go to this page over here. And then on the left, let's say this is a lead and this is a delete button. So we click on that specific icon, go add workflow, and then we can say delete a thing. And because we have a vertical list, which has the content, it's all stacked and each row contains that specific database entry, we're going to take this current items lead and we're going to delete it. So let's refresh and let's delete number 3. Okay, so essentially what I'll do is drag it all the way to the left and then boom, we've deleted that lead. So that's if you scroll to the left, it then triggers that delete item action. Now let's scroll over to the right and we set this to go to another page. So you can see, loads the other page. And what we can also do is, because this is actually a specific item within the page, we can also, let's say, if you want to click on this, let's say this over here will show, you click it and then it shows a full overview of that specific user. So we're going to go to the left and we're going to grab a sheet. And then in the sheet, we're actually going to go copy this content here, go back to the left and type sheet so we can quickly find it. And okay, so it's pulling the data of its parent group. Okay, so what we'd have to do here is, let's say we click it, We're going to say show an item element, which will be sheet A, and then we need to set a state of that, or we can display data. So for this one, let's actually just do display data in the group. Sheet A, data to display is current items leads, which essentially means that we're going to pull that stuff from the vertical list and then it'll show. So as you can see here, it's now changed the specific type of that sheet. So you can only do it manually, but because we've set now a type, it's kind of updated this type of content in the sheet, and then also its data source will need to be either edited, but because we've set data, we can probably just say leads contact. Okay, so then over here we can say parent group lead contact and parent group lead contact. And then what else I want to add in here is another group. And actually, let me add a button. Okay, actually, let's just go and preview that. Okay, so we still have our slides, but now if I click on it, it shows that content in this little pop-up for test 2. So let's say this was full of data and you have like email address, business info, company website, all that stuff. Then you'd click onto, let's say, their name and surname, and then it would show all this information over here for like a brief overview. But we'll get into that a little bit later. We'll explain how to build that in the actual CRM process. Okay, so we've gone through some of the basics of the general workflows, and now we're going to take what we've learned in the first section about the different elements, views, tabs, and now also the workflows, as well as all those other elements that we've gone through. And we're going to put them into practice by building out a CRM demo. So in this section, we are going to take what we've learned in the previous lessons and build a demo app. So this demo app will be a basic CRM, and we're going to go through things like building a sign up and sign in page, a user settings page, a home page, and a page to display, let's say, other profiles. In this case, we're going to look at creating leads and then how to navigate and use functions for them, and then how to then use specific settings to push them into, let's say, a customer, client, or a converted lead, and then creating a little bit of functionality around that. Okay, so let's hop in. So this is a bit of a walkthrough in terms of the process that we are going to try and build out, which will be you have a form or some form of lead intake. And then when a user signs up or sends you an email or is interested in your product, they will then become a lead, add it into your CRM. And then from there, you can turn them from a lead into a customer. I've used a bit of a mix of the web app and the mobile app here. So essentially in the web app, you could have your front end and then you have your own mobile CRM on your phone to manage all of your leads and clients. Okay, so over here, we're going to go type in test lead 1. I'm going to call that lead surname. Email will be lead@test.com. And we're going to call this lead co. Let's capitalize that. All right, so then it'll submit. And let's go see in our CRM if that lead's saved. Cool, so we have our lead here. So that would then start the process of being able to see that specific lead. So let's go back to here, our dashboard. We're going to preview this and we're going to get to building this in a second. So as you can see, I already have some leads here and there we go. That lead has just shown up in test lead 1, lead surname, and the company is lead co. Okay, so we're going to go and build this in a bit. We'll create a settings page, then maybe some different toggle items to give you some extra functionality, and then set up the database to show these different items, as well as like a basic dashboard menu that will show you your recent leads or your recent deals. So we haven't pushed one into deals just yet. So let's go to a lead here. Let's go to this new one. We're going to click on it, and this will take you to the lead info. This would be lead comes in, you've then chatted to them, and you want to now turn them into either a customer or they fit your ICP. So you then want to follow up on this lead. So the title will be lead co Let's call it lead code quote. And at this stage, let's say they're still lead, or maybe you've already spoken to them and they're interested. So we're going to turn this to proposal. The value of this will be, let's say, $1,000. And the notes are saying they want a new lead funnel. And then let's say with AI, because everyone's adding AI everywhere. Cool. So over here, then we're going to go to the bottom, click save, and that is going to push us to our deals page. So you can see we have one under proposal, but for some reason, it's not loading the contact. So we'll get there in a bit. But basically, we are going to create this little dashboard, then create the leads page and all the other elements. So let's actually look at our bottom tabs over here. So we'll go into leads. This would be an actual list of all the items. And then over here, we'll have our different swipe functionalities. Deals, we're going to go fix now. I think it's just not loading the text for some reason. And then we're going to add in, let's say, email function where if they become like a proposal lead, then you'd be able to email them directly from your app. Okay, so let's go and start from sign-in page and landing page. We'll generally start the app and it will have none of these pages. So we're just going to go through one by one. Let's go to our home page. Okay, so generally your home page will be the page that people go onto when they first open the app. Okay, so we get onto our page and you can choose for your homepage either scrollable, not scrollable, vertical list, and section list. I think for this homepage, we kind of want to set the content, keep it pretty simple and straightforward. So we're going to go not scrollable. First item I'm going to add, depending on your design, will be a group. And in the top half of the page, I want to have just, let's say, my image or my company logo, or just a cool image or design. So we're going to put that there. And then inside that, we are going to type image, and we're going to add an image inside that. Okay, so I already have that image in my database. So I'm just going to go, yeah, as you can see, it's a ChatGPT image. Get the URL. That's the different one. Here it is, yeah. So grab the URL. Alternatively, I'm just going to put the URL there. Alternatively, you would go insert dynamic data if it's another design within your database, or if you just want to upload a normal image, you just click on the image and then it loads for you. Cool. So now we have this image over here, but sometimes the image will stretch or be too big. So I'm going to make sure that its container group has specific restrictions on it. So over here, I'm going to set this to min 40 and this one max 50, and then max width we'll also just put as 100%. So this means that these can't necessarily go bigger than their allowed item. On the image itself, we can also kind of say fit, keep that, let's unclick this, and then min height we'll do 100%, sorry, max out 100%. Cool, so it's going to fit pretty much within that. This we're going to also say 100 and 100. You could also just leave these as 0, and then the image will scale into the box depending on how you've processed it or uploaded it. So we can choose rescale, stretch, or zoom. So now in the bottom half, we have like our landing logo or design element that makes it a bit catchy. And then underneath, we can add in another group. We're going to add that below. And in this group, we're just going to add some text. Let's go over to the left our element tree and drag it into that box. And this is just going to say, welcome to CRM demo. And let's make that bold. We're going to change the weighting to 600. Let's take off bold. Let's make this actually there. And we're going to go to the layout of the container group and press this, the middle item. All right, so we're also going to add in margins on top just to give it a bit of space underneath that guy. Always put 25. And then on the bottom, we'll also put 25. Let's close those. Now, underneath, we are going to just add a button. You can see this button stretches all the way to the edges. We don't really want that. It doesn't look the best. So we could either put that in a group and set the group to a specific height and width, Or in this case, we're just going to add 2 buttons underneath each other. So it will be, let's put on left padding, we'll put 25 and 25. So we're then going to go and click on this button itself, and we're going to edit the label. This one we can say sign up, and this one we can say sign. Actually, let's not do a double here. Let's just call this sign in, and then we'll link the other page a little bit later. Sign in, and then at the bottom we can do like a description of the app, or you could add some other cool looking areas, I guess. Let's actually throw it above. We go there, add text. We say this mobile CRM allows you to contact your customers in minutes, and convert your leads with ease. Let's change the spelling of mobile there. Cool. And then we're going to add our padding, well, margins on the left at 25 and 25, as well as some bottom margin. Cool. And let's quickly go and we're going to center that, and we're just going to change the weighting. So we're going to have a sign-in button over here, and then we could also have different little elements at the bottom, but for now we're just going to keep this as our home page, and let's go and set up a sign-in page. So over here we're going to click add a workflow onto this sign-in button, and we're going to say go to, and this one's just going to be go to a view, because we aren't going to create this as a tab. So the view will be we just call it login, which we've created, but we'll recreate now. All right, so essentially, let's go and preview this. What will happen is it will load on your phone, or the app will load itself, and then you can click over here to sign in, and it'll go to the sign in page where we can then add our different elements. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy this. Actually, going to copy this whole group, and I'm going to go to the top over here. I'm going to go to our login page. So let's just recreate it. So we're going to add a group, and in that group, okay, our layout on this page needs to be at the top. So let's go paste again. That's still pulling in that area. No worries. So we have our group, and inside that group, we are going to put an image, and we can quickly jump back to the home page. We're going to copy that image URL, jump back to the login page, I'm going to paste that there. Cool. So now this is the login page. So login page generally means that the user already exists. So the elements that we need to capture are the user's email and the user's password, and then have a login button. So we're going to add a group. We'll add it over here. And then we're going to type input on the left. We're going to add an input. We're going to name this input email. And we can change this content format to email as well. And over here, we're going to say text. And this text, we're just going to say, we're going to give this, go back to that upper group. And we're going to do 25 and 25. Let's actually give this a little bit more color. It's a little bit difficult to see. So we'll scroll down to the border colors, and we're just going to make it black just so we can actually see the specific box. Cool. So we have email. Then we're going to go Control C, and we're going to copy paste that. And then underneath this box is going to be not the email, but the user's password. So we're going to click on that import below. We're going to change its name to password. And then the content format, we're also going to type pass and then click on password. So we're going to say this input should not be empty. This input should not be empty. And then at the bottom, we are going to go look for a button. And let's drag this into, actually we're just going to copy paste the previous group. And then we'll drag the button into that group. and then just delete these previous items. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, because these are actually kind of sticking to each other, an easy way, instead of adding margin to the top or the bottom, is to go to the whole page, and then we're going to go apply gap spacing between elements. And here I'm just going to add 20. You can see that it's now made everything shift down a little bit. So we're going to now click on this button at the bottom, and then the label for this is going to be sign in. Cool, so now we have our basic design for this, for our sign in, but let's say the user doesn't exist. We need to make sure that they can create an account and then later sign in. So at the bottom, what we're going to do is we can just add like a text, and then this will say don't have an account, and then we're going to say sign up. Okay, so we'll do a quick little trick here to make this look a little bit better. I'm going to quickly go and find this primary color. So we're going to go to our styles, and inside style variables, you can see that we have set this to an orange, and we're going to go and we're going to copy that hex code. We're going to come across, and now you can see our text, it's currently all black. So we're going to go to our rich text editor, and then over here, we're going to highlight the sign up area. We're just going to pick a random color like gray. And then now you can see it says don't have an account, ? And then it has this little bit of code in front of sign up, which says color, then it's hex code, and closes, and then says color again. So we're going to find this hex code over here, and we're going to replace it with that code that we just copied. So over there, I'm just going to say Control V. You can see it's changed to FEBA 33. It doesn't look too great with the back contrast. So let's go and just make it a little bit more visible. I'll make it bold, or we can just increase that. Cool. So now let's go and create the functionality for the sign-in and then the navigation to the sign-up. So remember, we added the email, which was input email, and then input password, and then our button. So we're going to go to the sign-in button, we're going to click add workflow, and now we are going to say, we're going to click on this bottom button, and we're going to type log, and this will come up with log the user in. Now, when we say log the user in, it's going to ask for email, password, stay logged in, and remember the email. So email, we're going to type here input, which was our input email. So input emails value, and then our password will be input password value. And there we go. So now we have our two keys that we need to sign that user in. Remember the email, we're just going to set to no. So after the user is signed in, if we just say log the user in, they're going to stay on that page. So we need to make sure that this now says log the user in and has another instruction that sends them to the dashboard. So we're going to type go to, and in this one, we are going to actually go to a tab because they aren't really related pages. So we've gone from our landing page, we've clicked sign up, which goes to a view because those two are related. And then now we're going to go to a completely new area. So we're going to go to a tab. So the target tab is going to be dashboard. But when we are creating this app for the first time, we actually don't have that dashboard page. So we need to actually go and create that. Okay, so I've quickly gone and cleared those different tabs. So let's go again and look at that. We have our basic elements of the sign-in flows, but now because we're saying we're going to a tab, there's actually no elements that we can choose from. So we could select go to a view, but we don't really want to in this case. So let's say we didn't have a page. We only had our home and our login page. We're going to click new, we'll go new mobile view. We're just going to say for this one, not scrollable, and this will be a tab. So we're going to create that. And then on this page, we're going to click, and this is all the settings. So now we need to click on the main page, the tab page itself, which we just called. Let's call this something a little bit different. Tab example. So we click on the tab example page, and then over here on the left, we can see things like show the top bar, which activates this, show the safe area, which is this at the top of the phone, which you can't really put content in, status bar, which is your battery and those type of things. But the one that we are looking for is include as tab item. So when we click include as tab item, you can see that now at the bottom, we have this icon that we could then click on, and it would take us to that tab. So let's go back to our login page, back to our sign in button, and to tab. And now you can see, look, we have this as tab. So we're going to put that as tab for now, and we'll come back to that a little bit later. So let's go and test this all out. We don't actually have an account, so it's not going to work, but we have our image, our inputs, which we can type on. As you can see, because we set it to email type, it won't accept it. It's gone red. And password, we haven't set a password policy, so at the moment, that's okay. And then our button over here is not showing. So let's go and sort the rest of our login process. So just to recap, we're going to go from here. On our home page, we need to edit this workflow. This will go to login. So let's go back to here. And welcome to the CRM, and then you can see it takes us to our login page, and we can click back. All right, so now on our sign-in page, let's go and create a way that we can sign up for the actual CRM itself. So we go to the top, we're going to say new and create a sign-up. We already have a sign-up page here. So on the sign-up page, remember we need a lot more content or inputs from the user. So let's actually redo this page completely. I'm just going to copy the name. So we have an order. We go delete. Cool. And over here, new page, mobile view. We call it sign up. And I'll just put a tag, a number tag, just so we can see it chronologically. And then for this page, we're going to go not scrollable. And then on this one, because we need a few more fields, we're not going to put in that top image, but we will need to show the top app bar. So this will allow navigation from the different views. And here we're just going to say on the left, take a group. We're going to drop in a group. And we're going to use similar inputs from our sign-in page. So we're just going to grab a text element. This will sit at the top. Let's say the first one we need is name. Then on the left, we go to find our visual elements. We're going to type input. And then this input, we're going to type as name. This will be text type. And then on the margin side, we can add, because we don't actually have an image on this page, so it won't condense it, we can go to the global page itself. And then at the bottom, we can actually add some padding onto the page. So this will then keep all our elements with a little bit of space between the edge of the phone screen. Okay, so we have name. We're going to copy paste that. And we can say, call this text surname. Make this surname, make the input surname as well. Surname, cool. Then we are going to copy paste that again. And then this over here, we are going to use for the user's email. So let's update all of these items, email. Then this input, we're also going to change to input email. And then we're going to change the content format to email as well. So we have name, surname, and email. And let's go look at our already set data structure. So name, profile picture, surname, email. So I think for profile picture and things we can add in here as well. This is where we could implement either the camera upload, where people could then go and create an image for themselves, or they could literally take a selfie and then that's their profile picture. So the other one we had was bio. So we're going to go over here and say bio. And instead of using an input, a single line input, we're going to delete that item. And over here on the left, we're going to type multi. So we're going to add in a multi-line input. And this multi-line input, we are going to call bio. So now for our sign up page, let's actually add one group at the top. So we're going to add this at the top of the page. This will be text. We have our title view, so that will show. So we can actually move this to the bottom. And then we're also going to add in a button. So make sure that that's not in that group. I'm just going to drag it all the way there. Cool. And remember from the last one, we're going to go to the global page settings. We're going to go over here, apply gap spacing between elements. And then that gap spacing, we're going to make 20. So this will stretch everything out a little bit. And I think actually on this top item, we are going to add just 25 pixels of spacing. So let's go to our button. We're going to edit this button, which will be sign up. Over here, similar to our other page, this is going to just say already have an account, question mark, and then log in. And we're just going to center that text. First, I think we need to center that element itself. Cool. And then same as what we did last time, we are going to increase the size. Let's make that 700 bold. All right. And then let's go edit this color. So remember, we go to the text, we click Rich Text Editor, we highlight the part that we want to make a different color. Just choose a random color and then go over to our styles, copy the hex code for the color we want, and then we update this hex code over here with our color, and we have our login. All right, so the workflow we need to add on this one will be go to a view, target view will be login, and you can have a personal choice of resetting the navigation stack, which means, let's say I landed on the page, I clicked sign in, but I didn't have an account, and then I went to login, but realized I did have an account and went back to the login. It would then go login, back to the sign up, back to the login, and back to the home page. If you reset the navigation stack, you essentially just clear the history of those different kind of views that you've been to previously. So now we've set that, let's go and quickly double check our inputs here. Input name, type text, input surname, type text, then input email, which is type email, and then our bio, which is multi-line input for the bio. So we're going to click on our sign up button, and we go add workflow. We are going to say sign the user up, and we're going to say the email is input, email's value, password is input. We forgot to put in a password thing for the sign up. Okay, so we did forget one field, email, and then we're just going to copy paste there, and this will be password. Let's update this to be password. Also going to change the content type to password. Cool. So now we have a password over here. And let's go back to our workflows. All right. So we go back to our step one over here, and this is going to be input password value. And here you can say require password confirmation, which you'll need to add in further steps. Require an email to confirm the email, where you can set up then a confirmation page. And remember the email, you can set to either yes or no. So because we have other fields there, we are now going to do this saying make changes to current user. So when a user signs up, you have choice to either create their accounts and then route them back to the login page where they then log in, or you can have them add their details, create their password, and sign them or log them in directly from there. Alternatively, you could then send them to a waiting page where they need to confirm their email, and then from the email confirmation, then sign them up. For this one, we're just going to do a pretty quick setup, which is they fill in their details, we sign them up, we sign them in, update their details, and then push them to the dashboard page. So the user, this will sign the user up. Then we're going to log the user in, and we're just going to say here, input emails value, password is input password value. Then we're going to make changes to this current user that we've just logged in. And let's look at the field. So bio will be the bio, multi-line input bio's value. Name, you type name, it will be input name's value. Profile picture we haven't set for this page. We can do that in the settings page. So we're just going to delete that. And then there's surname, we're just going to type surname, input surname's value, sorted. Now the last step, so we've just created all these items, updated their details, and then now we need to go and push them to a specific page. So that page that we are going to go to, we haven't created just yet. So we need to come back to it in a little bit. Remember, this needs to be a specific tab page, as we're going from the login section, which only logged out users will essentially be able to see, and then we are logging this person in, so they will then see the logged in part of the app. Okay, so we've done our home and login. I think we need to update one thing on the login side, which is pushing this to, so let's go back. Bottom end, we have the don't have an account sign up. We're going to edit this workflow, and this will be go to view, which will be the sign up. Okay. So let's have a look. We're just going to refresh. Okay, so we land on our kind of home page. We're going to click sign in. We don't really have an account, so we can't actually sign in yet. So we're going to go sign up, and we're just going to say Matt test. And say Matt at test.com. Password is going to be super secure, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm joking. Don't ever put your password as that, please. Okay, and then bio is going to say just creating a test CRM app on the mobile app builder. All right, and then we're going to click sign up. I've already created a user with that name. Okay, Matt1. So at the moment, if we click sign up, it's not going to take us anywhere, and we'll have a bit of a bug for that item. Okay, so there you go. It says missing mobile view, so it's not going to really go anywhere. So it's created the user, but it just hasn't pushed us anywhere yet. So we are going to then just quickly test that these work. So it takes us to our login page. We'll be able to log in here, and it takes us to our sign-in page. Cool. Let's go back to login. Let's see if we add some random information, if it allows us. There you go. Okay. So that is the basic for the login and sign in. And remember, at the top, we need to activate the navigation to make sure that people can go through these areas. But that's pretty much the first area of your app, which will be your homepage or this area, where you can generally have other items to allow them to either go look at, let's say, a demo view or specific like marketing content to try and push them to do a paid account or anything that your kind of app requires. So on the homepage, which is like your index, which is where the user will land, and then generally advised to set up these sign in and sign up pages, which essentially sit, if you're looking at the app as a whole, they almost sit in a different area to the actual application itself.
And just like that, that is all we have time to include within this specific video today. As you can see, we've been building for a while, but there's still so much that we need to cover. Look, if you wanted to get access to the entire course here today, I'd always recommend heading over to our website where you can get access to that. And while that full course is going to cost you money, it's going to save you a ton of time throughout the process. So if you're looking to publish your app as quickly as possible, I definitely recommend checking it out. For now though, I just want to say a massive thank you for taking the time to watch this video today. If you found this video useful, I'd always recommend hitting that subscribe button on our channel, so that way you can be the first to know whenever we drop any additional Bubble tutorials. For now though, that's all from us, and I wish you all of the best on your own no-code journey.